Alright guys, hopefully this will help you with your review. Happy Monday. If you're as tired as I am, I'm sorry to hear that. It's a long weekend for me. Hopefully it wasn't a long weekend for you. So it's Monday and our test is tomorrow, Tuesday. This is for the Honors Juniors test. There's 70 questions on the test, which seems like a lot, but it's mostly true and false, and a lot of it's common sense, where if you know just a couple of the key principles, it should be pretty easy. You should be able to sort your way through it. I think if you pay attention to this whole lecture here, you'll get a 90 for sure. If you want to get 100, you're going to have taken good notes on your own on the presentations by your fellow students and study those. But hopefully this will get you close and get you ready. So again, this is for the Honors Juniors for the test tomorrow, Tuesday. Alright, the key vocab that I think could really trick you up. I'm not going to give you all the vocab, but here's the key vocab. You want to know what a progenitor is? That's just an ancestor. Nuptial means marriage or relating to marriage, particularly in a sexual manner, but marriage. Metaphysical. Metaphysical is outside of the physical. The prefix meta means outside of or beyond or alongside of. So something that's metaphysical is something that's outside of the physical world. Like my soul is metaphysical, my emotions are metaphysical, my thoughts are metaphysical. Axiological. Axiological just means it's a value system. Like think of your axioms in life, or an axis that your life revolves around. Your life revolves around your values. So an axiological system is a system of values or priorities. I would know the word carnal. Carnal literally means in the flesh. Incarnation means literally in the flesh. Jesus Christ becoming flesh, God becoming flesh. So carnal just means flesh, and usually it refers to flesh alone outside of the spiritual life, and usually refers to particularly sexuality as it regards the flesh. Concupiscence is our desire to sin. Ablution is a cleansing, usually a water cleansing. The Jews in the first century were known for their many ritual ablutions. Jesus was very clear that just being ritually clean, like just attending sacraments, for example, today, is not enough, that you have to be clean in your heart, that you have to be pure of heart. For example, if you go to confession and you're not really sorry, well, you're not going to receive the grace of forgiveness. If you go to the Eucharist and you're not really asking to have Jesus come into your life, well, you're not going to have Jesus come into your life, even though he's physically present in the Eucharist. Some other key vocab you want to know for this test. Semantic is just how you define words. And a semantic argument, or arguing semantics, is just arguing how words are defined. In sports, they say, well, we're going to vote for the MVP. Well, what is the MVP? What does that mean? That would be a semantic argument. Existential, you want to know that term, which just means existential refers to the things you can experience in this existence. So if a person has an exclusively existential worldview, then he's only going to believe in things that he can experience in his earthly existence. You can be a secular existentialist and believe that you cannot experience God in your existence on earth. You could be like Karl Rahner and be a theological existentialist, and Karl Rahner believed that we all experience God. It's just that it's so subtle we don't notice it sometimes. Other key vocab. Be sure you know sensitive soul, rational soul, vegetative soul. Be sure you go through your notes and know exactly what a mandated abortion coverage is. Know what abortion funding is as it relates to mandated abortion coverage, how it's different. You need to know what the Hyde Amendment is. You should know the phrase intentionality of existence. So those are the key vocab. If you can sort out those vocab words, you're probably going to be in a pretty good spot, and I gave you most of the definitions there. You should know that the Church only has formal teachings on a rational soul, does not have formal teachings on a sensitive soul or a vegetative soul. Theologians have had their opinions, and you can have yours. The church only definitively speaks about rational souls. Nefesh Haya is the Hebrew phrase for living soul. I'm sure that you know that. And the Old Testament says that every breathing creature, literally every breathing creature, has a Nefesh Haya, or a living soul. And some theologians say that those souls do not experience an afterlife. Some theologians say that they do experience an afterlife. That's it. Those are the key words that are going to be challenging for you. If you know those, you're in a good spot. As far as the true and false section, I'll go over some of the key concepts. You want to know that World Communications Day predates the internet, predates cell phones. The church does say that meaning, truth, and unity can be discovered on the internet. It's why the Pope has a Twitter account and the Archbishop has a Facebook account, because meaning and truth can be found on the internet. In fact, the church does teach that the internet is an integral part of human life now, and compares the internet age to the Industrial Revolution. You should also know that the church considers healthcare a basic human right, so the church would support healthcare on some level to everybody, for everybody. How a government sorts that out is for a government to decide, but that healthcare is a human right. It's not a privilege. It's something that is a human right, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are human rights. Let's see, what else should you know for this test? You should know that the U.S. bishops oppose mandated abortion coverage. They oppose abortion funding. They agree with the Hyde Amendment. You should know that they agree with universal health coverage, but they disagree with this form of universal health coverage being put through by the Obama administration. And we read some of the church documents that were specific about that. You should know about Always Our Children. You should know who that was written for. You should know whether it was pastoral or systematic theology in Always Our Children. You should know whether the Catechism discusses homosexuality and what it says, if it says anything. You should know what Rice University says about the science behind homosexuality, which is basically that the science is unclear. You can't locate a specific gene that causes homosexual actions. Identical twins, for example, are not always both homosexual. Jason Collins, who just came out as homosexual, has a twin brother who is clearly heterosexual. So your genes don't make you homosexual. Scientists, however, disagree or are unsure of the impact genetics or other biological factors could have on homosexual orientation. So it's clear your genes don't force you to do anything. We are not, quote, totally controlled by our genes. But many scientists say that all of our actions, even our behavioral decisions, such as homosexuality, must have some impact from our genes. But it's unclear, and no one gene can be, specified as saying this is a gay gene. Scientists have stopped looking for that, and they're now looking for other biological components. But it seems very clear that it's unclear, and that's where science is right now, for better or for worse. As a Catholic Church, therefore, we're very sensitive. The Church is very clear in Always Our Children that God does not love homosexuals less than heterosexuals. The Church is very clear in the Catechism that we should not discriminate against homosexuals. The Church is very clear in the Catechism that that homosexuals need to be treated with respect, with compassion, and sensitivity. And that really puts Catholic lawmakers in an interesting situation. If you oppose homosexual marriage, I suppose you're discriminating against homosexuals. But if you support homosexual marriage, you are supporting homosexual activity, which the Church clearly opposes, and says that it's a disordered act and that it violates natural law, not just revealed law. And the U.S. follows natural law. So how do you not discriminate and still obey natural law? That's a tough situation, and it's not my job to give you a my political opinion or a political perspective, but our faith rubs up against politics, and that's an area where our faith is currently rubbing up against politics. So just keep that in mind. We're not supposed to discriminate. We're supposed to be sensitive, but the church does oppose homosexual activity because the Bible does. As far as the science goes, it's unclear. Certainly we're not made homosexual by our genetics, but there might be some genetic impact. And how much of an impact is that? We don't know. So we have to be sensitive to that mystery. Always our children, the church document says that most homosexuals describe their sexual orientation as something that they haven't chosen. So you have to be sensitive to that. No matter what is causing the orientation, whether it's an internal decision they're not conscious of, or whether it's genetics, we have to respect that it's a cross. And we have to be very sensitive when it comes to treating homosexuals. But we also have to be faithful to the Scriptures and the Church's teachings, which is a challenge. So in the end, if you don't know what to do, just love and be faithful to Scripture. All right, let's see. John Paul II wrote Theology of the Body. The sections that we read mostly pertain to love versus lust, and love is mostly a mutual giving, and lust is mostly a taking. What else do we have here? The church says that legislators should never disregard natural law. They should also never disregard the common good, and they should not disregard the constitutions of their specific country. You should know the difference between Medicaid and Medicare. You should know Cardinal Regali's opinion on mandated abortion coverage. You should know C.S. Lewis's opinion on mosquitoes and the afterlife. You should know Thomas Aquinas' opinion on animals and the afterlife. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there are some more specific things that you'll have in your notes if you took good notes. But that's the basics. It's not an incredibly difficult test, but it's not a piece of cake either. So just be sure you study. Don't blow it off. But if you prepare, you should be okay. One final note. If you are taking an exam tomorrow, I know some of you have a biology exam because you're in a class with seniors. Be sure you note that on your Scantron. Perhaps we'll give some extra credit for you if you struggle. If you get a 95, I'm not going to just give you 100, but if you score in the 80s, perhaps we'll give you at least 5 extra credit points to make your grade a little more respectable. All right? God bless you guys. I hope this helps. Again, I don't think the test is that complicated, but you do want to study. And again, I really applaud you for the way you conducted yourselves when it comes to these really challenging issues, especially homosexuality. You did a tremendous job with those presentations, and I can only pray that you will be as faithful to church teaching as you grow up, that you'll have the sensitivity you're supposed to have as a Catholic, and also that you'll have faithfulness to the Scriptures, and as well as a desire to explore the science. All right, I hope this helps. God bless you guys. I wish you every success tomorrow on the test. Good night.